So I want to talk a little bit about meditation. Maybe when I say that word, you imagine someone sitting in full lotus, very focused, very calm, very peaceful, preferably wearing mala beads, and sitting extremely still and silently for long periods of time. And while that's one version of meditation, that is not what meditation is. That's a meditation practice. And there are all kinds of ways of practicing meditation. But the word meditation itself is meant to point to your natural state. So essentially, anything that brings you closer to your natural state is meditation. Anything that puts you in deeper touch with yourself is meditation. So why do we have to sit still? Well, we don't have to. There's moving meditation, there's dance meditation, there's meditation gazing at nature, watching wind blowing in the leaves, there's watching a candle. There's all kinds of ways of bringing meditation into our lives. One of the reasons why it's so often taught in stillness is that as much as we might have good intentions of going to the forest and walking in a meditative way, I think we've probably all had the experience of walking through that forest and coming out of it realizing that we didn't see a single tree, that we were caught up in our mind. And so as much as we might have the intention to be more present, practicing in stillness in a controlled environment, in a place that you set up in your home, where you commit to sitting with yourself, even for a minute or two a day, without the distractions, our capacity to touch into true meditation is enhanced. So to sit in stillness, when the body is still, when the body becomes more still, there's a tendency for the mind to follow. To close our eyes in meditation, where there's no visual stimulus, which tends to activate the mind, to close our eyes allows us to kind of turn the antenna inwards so that we can get to know the territory of our inner being. So as you sit here listening to my words, with your eyes open or closed, your body might be relatively still, and you can feel your body resting into the solidity of the earth. All right, so when we're walking around, when we're moving, it's sometimes not really possible for us to feel the deep holding that is coming from beneath us all the time. So as your body settles here, allow it to drop into the deep holding that is perpetually rising up to envelop you, to support you. And because we're being really quiet, many of you may be feeling the immediate effects of that, of the words that I'm speaking, but also energetically, as I'm speaking them, I'm feeling it in my body. I'm feeling myself settle into the earth. We all are settling to our own capacity, and we're feeling each other. I'm noticing tingling in my hands and my feet. If we're in the busyness of our lives, we miss these subtleties. And so to sit and to settle and to just start with the very fundamental truth that we are resting on and relying upon this earth for our every physical need. And that this relationship and this deep holding that the earth offers us is more than any person or any mother could have ever held us. So the lack that comes from the human beings in our lives, the lack of being able to meet us, the lack of being able to understand us, of being able to really hold us unconditionally, to love us unconditionally, is right here, right now. It's coming, it's literally emanating from the earth. And so when we sit in stillness, we get to experience that, and we get to develop a more intimate relationship with the earth energetically, right? So we are energy beings, the earth is an energy being, and there's this constant exchange happening. So notice that your body is resting into the support, and some parts are settling down a little more easily than others. And that's okay. We just notice that. So we're not trying to meditate. We're just becoming present with ourselves. And the way that I like to teach it is, to just tell you, oh, just be present with yourself. That's a lot, like, okay, what does that mean? So I break it down. Be present with your relationship with the ground beneath you. Start with that. Just the fact that your physical body is resting on the physical earth. There's a touch there. And the more that you practice this, the more that you'll attune to the energy transmission that's happening from the earth, which is extremely nourishing, extremely soothing, extremely replenishing. We tend to try to replenish ourselves in such complex ways. We have to get on a plane, we have to be in the sun, we have to whatever. And all of those things are fine. I'm not saying that they aren't. But every moment, there's this opportunity to just feel what's beneath us, to feel what's supporting us, and to give ourselves to that. Physically first, and then the energetic will follow. And then we can move to the breath. So once the body begins to settle and get still, there's this awareness that yes, there's stillness, but there's this pulse happening within that stillness. And that's why so many meditation techniques are all around the breath, because it's a constant. It's been here, it's a companion that's been with you since the beginning of your life. So you can feel your breath, and we practice right from the get-go, just letting the breath be. I know we've got several people here who are quite interested in breath work, and all of that is fine. It's fine to manipulate the breath to experience different things. But in meditation, we practice just letting everything be. There's no manipulation whatsoever. And even if there is manipulation, we don't manipulate the manipulation. We just let it be. We notice that part of us that wants to get involved, that wants to, just make things just right? It's okay. We notice that and we just let it be. So just simply being with the breath and letting it be is a practice in and of itself. Because the longer you stay with your breath, the more you notice about it. Right? When you just let your breath be, you begin to notice more and more subtle details. And this is the choice point here. Because it sounds easy. Oh yeah, just be aware of my breath. That's easy. It's happening all the time. But it's not, right? Half a breath later, you're in the head. Why? Because when you drop into your breath and the awareness expands to include more and more of the breath range, you start touching into areas of the body where trauma has settled in, where we're protecting certain emotions. So the breath is, of course, moving in the territory of the heart, moving in the territory of the gut, of the belly, all of these areas where maybe all of our emotions arise, and many have gotten kind of crystallized there. And so as the breath moves, and it moves into the territory of all that's held, we just want to go up into the head, right? We want to avoid that. So it's a simple instruction, but it's not actually an easy one. So just notice in this moment your breath and how it's flowing for you right now. Notice that it feels open in certain spots and maybe not so open in other spots. Open to the possibility that the way that your breath is showing up right now is perfect. You may not understand it, but it is perfect. So if you're feeling resistance in the breath range, notice where that resistance seems to be primarily. And meet it with a willingness to be humble enough to not get involved. to just be an observer of the breath. To notice that it actually shifts all on its own. When you stay with the breath, it lets you in more and more deeply. And you begin to notice more and more details. And when you find yourself being pulled back into thought, just very gently, without adding any judgment or self-criticism, just bring awareness back to the breath. This is a key practice here. We're not really practicing being with the breath. What we're practicing is allowing things to be as they are. And of course, with that invitation, the one that wants to control, the one that wants to understand, the one that wants things to be different, almost gets amplified. In fact, it probably does get amplified. And so, can you allow that too? And simply stay committed to the breath for now. Can you watch your own breath as you would if, I don't know, maybe you just brought a new kitten or puppy home and they're sound asleep, but you're just delighting in watching them breathe in their little basket. Or maybe you have a new lover and you're lying awake in the middle of the night and you love to hear the sound of their breath, right? So to be with your own breath in that way, how wonderful that another breath is here, taking me into another moment. And just noticing, experiencing for yourself that the breath has shifted without us trying to change it in any way. This is a very simple but very key lesson. Things change on their own, even when we completely let go of control. Of course, the mind wants to recapture your attention, which it's had for so much of your life. And so just let the mind be too. Let it tell its stories. Let it evaluate. Let it criticize you for how you're doing here. Let it congratulate you. Just recognize there's a choice here to not entertain those thoughts. The mind thinks, that's what it does. It generates thoughts, and it will continue to generate thoughts. Most of them, if you look at them closely, and we'll be looking at this next week, most of our thoughts are nonsense. They're not true. They have nothing to do with reality. And since we've given ourselves the opportunity for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years to live from mind, the invitation here with a soul-centered meditation is to give more parts of our being a chance to offer their perspectives on our moments. So the mind has its perspective, and we can thank it for that. But there's other parts of our being that also want to express their perspective, and they could add a richness. And so as we drop back down into the breath, we open once again to our whole physical body. And we get to know its language through sensation. We open to it just as it is. And there may be feelings here also, the subtler sensations, and we open to those just as they are. And the breath is pulsing through these sensations. And when we begin to unhook from micromanaging the thoughts, the sensations, the feelings over and over again, we naturally, excuse me, fall into a greater sense of here-ness, a greater sense of presence, a greater sense of inclusion, which gives us a greater sense of harmony, because we're not trying to push away certain things and grasp at other things. We're practicing opening to this moment exactly as it is. And even a little bit of that will give us a greater sense of harmony. So from this place, what I would like you to do is to drop a question in through the top of your head, like a pebble dropping into a pond. And that question is going to come to land in your heart. And the question is what is your greatest aspiration? What is your greatest aspiration? And to be clear, I'm not talking about a future goal or a future aspiration. I'm asking you, what is your most fervent moment to moment aspiration? What is it that you want to experience as a thread that runs through every one of your moments? So perhaps a word or phrase pops up immediately. Perhaps it's something that you want to sit with a little bit more. What is your greatest aspiration, moment to moment? The feeling, the sense that you want to be at the core of your experience, that you value the most at this time in your life, at this moment. At the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat kind of thingy. You can press on that and that'll open up the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. And feel free to write down. I'd love to hear the words or the phrases that you've come up with. I feel like we will create a bouquet here together with our intentions and our aspirations. Joy and inner freedom, wholeness, peace and happiness, calm, love, connect, pleasure and presence, to be in meditation at all moments. Beautiful. To shine. Yeah. So as you read these words and as you hear them, let's practice being energetic beings, healing, and feel free to write more if more comes. Stillness, pleasure, relish the moment. And as you hear these words and you receive them, Feel where they resonate in your body. Aliveness, presence, connection, love. Beautiful. And there's no time frame for this, so take your time in writing yours down. Thriving, deep relationship. I feel like we're gathering wildflowers and creating a beautiful bouquet. So I want you to feel the place from which that word, or even the inquiry, if the word hasn't come to you yet, what is it that I value the most? What is it that's most important for me? It kind of, it lands and it strikes a chord. There's like a resonance in your body. I want you to turn towards that and just allow yourself to feel the source of this word, because it's just a word. It's basically a word, the best word you could find to name the nameless, right? Because all of these words don't really maybe encapsulate it all, but mostly it's about feeling the place from which that longing is coming from. And if I had asked you to do this an hour ago, I feel like you maybe wouldn't have been able to access it as clearly and deeply and directly, right? So this simple practice that we've done of just being present with ourselves has allowed us already to touch into this radiance and this source of longing and truth within ourselves. Fullness, compassion, beautiful. So really feel it, like really allow yourself to kind of roll in it, like a pig in mud, like just let yourself just take in the feeling of that word, or maybe even, everybody contributing is kind of adding to your own experience. And just it'll grow all on its own. The more you enjoy it, the more it spreads. And all of these aspirations that you've identified, we could further that inquiry with, what is love in this moment? What is compassion in this moment? What is thriving in this moment? What is fullness in this moment? Is it true that peace is not here, is not available right now? Is it true that fullness is not available right now? Is it true that love, deep relationship, is not available right now? Is it true that pleasure is not available right now? Sometimes we're so focused on what we're needing to fix that we forget that all of these qualities and more are here right now.